Japan is home to some of the largest auto manufacturers in the world. Some of the most iconic cars of all time were produced by Japanese companies. And ever since Japanese vehicles hit the roads of the US back in 1958 with Toyota in the crown, they've been a big part of American culture. Companies like Toyota, Honda, and Nissan have made so many legendary vehicles, it's too many to count. Nissan in particular has produced vehicles like the Z-Cars with the Fairlady and 300ZX, or the S-Chassis with the 240SX or Sylvia. But there's one line of vehicles we never got over here in the States, and it might just be the very best of all. The Nissan Skyline, other known as Godzilla or the GTR, is a car that we never got over here in the States, but it might be the best that Nissan really ever had to offer. It's a car that is legendary in the way that it handles and kind of has a cult status here now, especially amongst enthusiasts. Now today I get the honor of driving this 1995 R33 Nissan Skyline. But enough from me. Let's get this thing on the road and see what it has to offer.
So this is an R33 Nissan Skyline. This is a vehicle that we sadly never got here in the US, as you can tell by me sitting on the right side of the vehicle maybe. Now Japan is home to some of the greatest manufacturers on the planet. Names like Toyota, Honda, Nissan, and for years they have been putting out great economy vehicles, great utility vehicles, but more importantly, great performance vehicles. Nissan has one of the fullest performance divisions of all the Japanese manufacturers, with vehicles like the Z, the 240SX, S13 and S14, and then with this, the R chassis, the Skylines, with your GTRs, your Godzillas, your R32s, and all that. This is an R33. It's kind of the forgotten stepchild of the Skyline family. You might know with Calsonic, the R32 Skyline is the vehicle that got that heralded name, Godzilla. It was an absolute monster on the race circuit and really wasn't beat by anything on the track for years. We finally did get an R chassis in the States, but it's no longer a Skyline. That's the R35 GTR. Fantastic car, but it did lose some of what made this special. It no longer comes in a manual. It lost that fantastic straight six that the R chassis were known for, with replacing with a great twin turbo V6, but there's something special about this inline six that just sounds like nothing else on the road. And you know, from a car for the 90s, this has a lot of strange features. It's got the windows that pop in and then pop back out, and you really notice how different it is when you start driving on this other side of the road. Straight six that I was talking about. That's the RB25. This is a non-turbo version. It's not a GTR, it's a GTST, rear wheel drive, but still it has that same engine and it just sounds so good. And it definitely takes some getting used to shifting with your other hand. The biggest thing you'll notice whenever you swap from a left-hand drive car over to one of these right hands is the turn signals. I'm constantly accidentally flipping the wipers on when I mean to be turning my signal lights on. But honestly, once you get the hang of it, it's not that difficult. Shame that we never got one of these in the States. The R32, R33, R34, none of those ever came stateside until the R35 eventually did in the late 2000s. And it's a shame because this is such a fantastic driving car. It sounds fantastic, and it really just carries through what Nissan was already known for, which is making great cars. And it's a shame that we haven't got one on this side. But with these cars starting to get older and that coveted 25-year rule coming into effect, you can start to pick these up for not a lot of money. If you've got 15, 20, 25 grand laying around and you're trying to get into something that's unique, fun to drive, sounds fantastic, you can pick up one of these, an R32, a lot of imported Hondas. Really, the buffet is there and you just got to pick what you want. And even though this isn't the turboed version, it still sounds so good. They're capable, it's not the fastest thing ever, but it's got enough torque. It's got a 2.5 liter inline six that pulls strong, it drives great, it's flat in the corners, the steering response is fantastic. You know, I get why this chassis was so dominant in the racing scene for so many years all across the world. So I definitely recommend, if you're trying to get into something fun, you know, these cars might be coming on 20 years old, but you can't really beat the fun. Despite their age, you can find a lot of them in really good condition. A lot of these cars were driven around Japan in smaller, more urban areas. They don't have those wide, long road trip type countrysides like we do here in the US. So you can find a lot of these under 100,000 miles, even under like 80,000 miles. And it's a great bang for your buck. You're going to be one of the most unique vehicles on the road. People are constantly going to be talking to you. It's crazy how many times people stop you in traffic and say, hey, you're on the wrong side of the road, or I like your car, your wheels. It's just something special that you can't really get new these days. And I mean, with all that being said, I'm going to throw it back to Terrence in the studio, and he's going to close this out. I'm going to get to driving.
At the end of the day, it's no secret that Nissan has a history of making great cars, especially performance cars. The Skyline nameplate arguably embodies that the best out of any of their vehicles. And although the R33 may be the forgotten Skyline, it just may be my favorite generation. Yes, even more so than the R34, which, let's be honest, none of us will ever be able to afford one of those anyway. While the Skyline name lives on overseas and gets rebranded over here as Infinities, this really was the golden age for the chassis in the 90s. If you're thinking about getting into something cool like this, or any new car really, and need help starting with the selling or trade-in process of your vehicle, get in touch with us over here at CarVendee, and follow us to see more cool cars like this. I'm T, this was the R33 Nissan Skyline, and I'll see you next time.